Tonight on Debate Amongst Friends, tanking officially declared for losers. Doc and Prof will definitely be discussing how losing in the NBA no longer reaps any benefits, as well as looking into the playoffs and
Three,
do it.
two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fine edition of Debate Amongst Friends live on YouTube, on Periscope. Shout out to our Periscope folks out there, and on Twitch. This is a sports podcast where we talk about all the mainstays, news of the most recent sports world within the past week. I am your moderator, the Professor John Gotti, and I am the advocate of the reigning, defending, undisputed podcast champion that can kiss any ink of data and make it cry.
Wow.
Doc Lesnar. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great because I got an introduction from the Professor John Gotti, the King of RNG, the Troll Master, the Data Analyzing Ninja that can catch data with his teeth. Ninja Pliss.
I've been on a roll this week. As far as my reads, I've been on a roll.
You have, and you know, it's not even just this week because you kind of predicted some of the things we're going to talk about months ago,
Yeah.
and it's not even reads. It's a combination of reads, wishes, desires, preference, and of course this is all speculation because we never know. There is always the Dolan effect, not the Bolin effect, but the Dolan
I don't think we can
effect.
say that on the stream.
I don't say that either, but it's okay. They don't know what the balling effect is. Only we know. It's just perfect.
Ballin'!
Balling. But
Uh,
we got some
shout
things to
outs,
discuss.
shout outs to SmackDown. Here comes the pain.
Here comes the pain. Mm. We got some things to discuss. I mean, what a wild night last night. I'm in training at my new spot, my new role, and
Making money.
yeah, and my trainer goes, I sat around all night thinking that last night was the draft and it was just the lottery. I was so upset. Because she's a big Zion fan, and she just wanted to see Zion get drafted so bad that she thought last night was the draft, and she was so disappointed when she realized
Well,
it was just the lottery.
and I understand why she felt that way because that was the vibe, and there was a
It
couple
was.
of vibes, and we're going to talk about the vibes instead. But that was pretty much the vibe. Like
It
this
was.
was, the NBA draft happening, and not the NBA
Absolutely.
lottery. They made it such a huge production for essentially a game of chance. Like literally just
Hmm.
promoting gambling. I'm gonna keep
There
trying
you go.
that term.
There you go. Gambling. That's gambling.
you know, Gambling on, young future NBA prospects' dreams. And for
Hmm.
many people and many teams, many markets, in fact, those dreams have been shattered.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And, we're going to jump into this, but thank goodness trades didn't happen in the middle of the season, or it would have been even worse.
I feel like, and there's a couple of theories that I was reading about, and I'll probably highlight on some of them too, but I feel like it was a downstream effect or a good job reward for a certain team to not complete this particular trade with this major basketball market.
Right. I mean, we could jump right into it so that you don't have to dance around it, of course.
Oh no, I'm
I mean,
not.
let's.
I'll dance on. I'm pretty. I'm pretty. I'm
Oh my
Muhammad
God.
Ali. This whole show.
Wow. So, I mean, let's just jump into it. I mean, obviously, the world knows now that
The New
the
York
Los
Knicks got
Angeles
the number one.
Lakers. Let me tell you though, I mean, that was pretty. It was tough because I really thought the Lakers was going to get that number one pick, and that would have been too much for me to handle.
I felt like, and I said it on social media. I said it during the live stream that I did the other day too. Make sure you check that out too on YouTube, by the way. That if the Lakers was to get the number one pick, people were going to be like, you're going to see such a downstream impact. It's going to rival the past few years for the NFL. Like, and people thought that I was joking about this, like, God, you're just being a troll. No, people were legit ready to stop watching basketball.
You're right, absolutely. My brother, that's the first thing he said. Shadow is not a man of many words, but when he got on the phone with me, he immediately said I was going to be so mad
Yeah,
if the Lakers got this pick because it was too close. The fact that they got into the top five was
the
enough.
fact that they got into the top four was enough. That
Yeah,
was the issue.
yeah, it
As
was
soon as
kind of
I
rough. I
saw,
was nervous.
as soon as I saw them rise up to at least be within that top. Well, actually, they literally just jumped them straight into the top. It was after the fifth pick, and I was like, okay, well, this isn't good because they had like the 11th highest chance
Right,
to get the top seed, to get the top
right.
pick. And as soon as I saw number five went, and they went into commercial, and I'm like,
Oh Lord,
okay, well,
Lebr
let's see what's gonna
Le
happen here. Okay,
LeBron and Zion, just great.
well, I'm like, if they would have done that, because like a lot of people, so more people would have been upset apparently if the Knicks got the number one pick instead of the Lakers.
I
But I felt like those
disagree.
people were trolling because
Yeah,
I had a chance to look through their timeline history or other previous articles, and they were saying how much it'll be detrimental to the league if Zion ended up getting drafted by the Lakers.
it
So
would be.
so
I
they
agree.
definitely pulled a 180 on their opinion, and a lot of people, and I've been reading a lot of articles today because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I know there's gonna be some people out there either gonna be
Mm,
salty with their words, gonna be
of
highly
course.
opinionated with their words, won't know what they're talking about, and they shouldn't even put hands to a keyboard to type.
Right.
It's
But you
ridiculous.
know, some people, I mean, we've already gone through, the magical lake. We already been through that lake of magical tears. But here we are, and I hate to put this out there, but there were a lot of salty Nick fans. I mean, salt. Think about how Phoenix feels
Oh no,
to not.
I get it. Like I
Yeah,
get it. I get what you're
Atl
saying. I know exactly what you're coming from
Atlanta,
with it.
Atlanta.
Which I
Let me tell
said,
you.
I even said yesterday on the Debate Amongst Friends group. Make sure you follow www.facebook.com/Debate Amongst Friends /group/Debate Amongst Friends.
That's
That
right.
I would be happy if the Hawks get the number one pick. Trey Young and Zion, that's
That was good.
ridiculous. That'd be
That would have been
great.
good. But here's the thing, though. Nick fans, I think at number three, they're in a prime position, and we're going to jump into this, but I would be so upset as a Hawk and a Suns fan to drop
And a
so
Cavs fan.
far. And the Cavs. Oh God, the Cavs. I was pretty sure that, fate would have kind of run its way and that either the Knicks would get it or the Cavs would get it for like a 90th straight time.
Yep.
Uh, but it didn't happen that way. And this is what I'm gonna say, and I hope, we put this on a t-shirt, but tanking is for losers. You understand?
Uh,
In this new with these new rules,
like
tanking
tanking is for
is for
yeah,
losers.
yeah.
Like,
I believe Jay Williams said it best today on Get Up. He was saying that it's better to be the sixth to 10th worst team in the league instead of the first to fourth worst team in the league.
Honestly, now I feel like the lottery before was rigged, and now it's like it's a little more fair.
I feel like we need more transparency for the lottery. I feel like they need to actually show what's happening versus just coming out there with flip cards.
Right, because we don't know what really went down.
Because for
Um,
all
un-
we know,
yeah,
for all we know,
unless unless they
the
just take the
Hawks probably
NFL
had
approach.
the number one pick, and they was
Right,
like, you know what? I don't think I like this. This doesn't help sell, tickets. It's not sexy enough.
it's not. I
Let's
mean,
let's do a redo.
unless they go the NFL route.
What, the worst team gets the first pick?
That's it. I mean, if they just go to, but I mean, again,
Well,
tanking is
now
for
now
losers,
you're yeah. I mean, and before that, they had a 25% chance. Before they changed it to just 14%.
which now is no reason to tank, and I guess that's supposed to be a penalty for tanking, I guess,
I
in a nutshell.
I still feel like there's still shenanigans that happened with last night. Once again, I am not upset that my New
Oh
York
no,
Knickerbockers didn't get the number one pick. In fact,
you
I was on record saying
you
that
did.
I would have been fine getting a top three pick.
You did say this, and you said you'd be completely fine with taking R.J. Barrett.
And that's what I also said too. People
So let's
laughed
go.
at me. People thought that I was
Nobody
crazy.
laughed. Nobody thought
People
you were crazy.
laughed.
Nobody
People was
laughed.
like, "Oh, why
No,
don't you want Zaya?" I'm like, "I'm fine just
nobody
getting RJ
laughed.
Barrett."
Nobody laughed.
People
My
laughed.
brother agreed with you. Several people agreed with you. Nobody laughed or
They
anything like
laughed.
that.
They
There's no
laughed.
laughter. They
They
were
they
laughing
they
about
they
probably
they,
something
they
I
said I need to
said.
hang up. They said I need to hang up these very headphones I got
Oh my
on my
God.
head.
They probably were laughing at me saying that the Rockets should get Zion or something like that.
Actually,
That's
I can
laughable.
agree. I can agree with that. Actually,
Yeah, I think that's probably more likely. But I mean, let's take a look here. So, of course, number one, the Pelicans got the number one overall pick. Mr. Griffin does it again. I mean, how many first round picks, overall picks, is this guy gonna get?
I think that's his third one. I
Third or
think.
fourth, right?
Yeah, third or fourth.
Did he have Anthony Bennett?
Yes.
Yeah, Anthony Bennett. Did he get? He didn't draft LeBron though.
No. So he had Anthony
Oh,
Bennett. He had Kyrie,
Kyrie.
and yeah. So number three.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I feel like I was like this guy, man. But so here's the deal.
But even
So
still, though, like throughout a GM's tenure, he got
yeah,
three number one picks
hmm and one championship to show for it.
and one championship to show for it.
Yeah. So
Obviously,
obviously,
I need to
with
become a NBA GM.
right, because it must be the easiest thing ever.
No, because
So
that bar is real low.
so the Pelicans get the number one overall pick. I'm okay with this. Zion going to New Orleans. Of course, if they decide to keep him for whatever reason, they would decide to trade him
So
out of my
two
out of my
things.
control.
So that's one, and another thing that people were discussing, and of course Brian Windhorst, that pissant, LeBron James nipple sucking guy,
Wow.
was saying that there's a possibility that Zion may want to exercise his right to decide to go back to
To
Duke
college.
instead. And
Yeah.
he has until 10 days before the draft
Yeah.
to make the
Which would
decision. So, of
which
course,
would be
that
insane.
throws another, grain of salt into a raging fire.
Which would throw everybody out of whack because then the
Which will
Knicks
throw
definitely wouldn't get RJ.
exactly. Well, and he was saying, it was more because of Zion potentially not being happy going to the Pelicans. And of course people took like facial expressions and
Right,
let's
laughing.
let's
Yeah.
let's sidebar real quick. We need to talk about this part because like I felt this way. I don't know if you felt this way too while watching this, but did it not feel creepy that the
It
camera
was.
kept staying on Zion throughout the whole time, and like
I
Rachel
felt like
Nichols
yeah,
is continually asking
yeah.
him like stupid questions.
I felt like not only that, but it was almost like no one else should have been there.
It was almost like no one else mattered.
It didn't. They didn't matter. Nobody else should have been there.
Because
I think it's
suddenly
100.
today, now everyone wants to, interview RJ Barrett.
Right.
Like, he's literally the Robin of the operation. Like,
Right.
young Robin of the
And
operation.
he was the number one player in the country
And
last
he
year,
was the number one player in the country. And
and
now
carried
ESPN
them.
is covering him today.
Yeah. So my thing is, and I would hate for RJ to be the consolation prize of the Pelicans. If Zion does decide to go back to school, which he said in an interview, earlier this week or last week, that he would have loved to gone back to Duke, but he knows he has to take care of his family. But ultimately, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if he goes back to Duke.
I know.
I just wouldn't want him to get hurt or anything. But then again, I think that I really feel as though
I mean, as long as
he
he doesn't wear
could,
any Nikes.
right. I really feel as though he could benefit from expanding his game if he did go back to college. I
I
mean,
can
because he
agree with that.
knows that if he goes to the Pelicans, the way it's set up, and knowing that Anthony Davis wants to leave, and I'm not trying to disrespect
And
Drew
Drew
Holiday.
Holiday wants to leave too.
Yeah, I'm not trying to disrespect Drew Holiday. I feel like Anthony Davis has a better chance of getting out of Drew Holiday, but it's like they're not set up even remotely to win. At least if he went to like the Grizzlies or the Knicks, they have an opportunity to make something of the team. It doesn't all fall on his shoulders. He can't carry those guys. And I actually had a conversation with, my lovely wife, Mrs. Lesnar, um, and she actually wasn't sure. She didn't know about the draft process and how the worst teams got these young players.
Yep.
And I had to, and she was like, "Oh, that's terrible." I said, "Yeah, because it's it really puts a lot of pressure on them. So not
Hmm.
only do they have to succeed on the court, and we've seen people, the Michael Beasleys of the world go high in the draft, and Anthony Bennett, aforementioned Anthony Bennett, go high in the draft and just not succeed.
Yeah, but Anthony
And
Bennett was coming in as a bum though.
yeah,
He
he
came in
was.
as a bum though.
He did, I guess. I don't. I don't really remember. I mean, what do you want? What did you want from the Cavs? I mean, come on. What do you
Not a
want?
lot. Not a
Yeah.
lot.
So I don't know. I think and I'm trying to think who else was even in that draft, but that's neither here nor there. My thing is it puts a lot of pressure on them to succeed. Oh, Oladipo was in that draft. They should have won
Yep.
Oladipo first.
Yep.
That would have been completely different if the Cavs would have drafted Oladipo. Wow, wow. Or even now looking back at it, Giannis.
Hmm.
Could you imagine
Once again.
Giannis? And
Once again. This is what
yeah,
happens when listen to faulty media outlets like ESPN.
yeah, they could have had so many good players. Otto Porter,
Otto Porter
even
Jr. Yep.
yeah, a lot of these players would have been better, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, ultimately they took Anthony Bennett. He turned out to be a bum, and I don't know where he is now. But that's neither here nor there. The pressure on these rookies is crazy. And if Zion said, "Hey, I'm going back to Duke," I mean, obviously it would mess up some commitments that we've already gotten, but I'm sure they would work it out.
I can agree with you.
So the next team is the Memphis Grizzlies, which everybody's under the assumption that they're going to take Morant.
Yep.
And then I saw today that people would be interested in trading from Mike Conley, which, I'm not 100% sure what the direction is again of this franchise. Let's think about it here. If they take John Morant, you pair John Morant and I guess Mike Conley for the first year, and apparently then the story is then you would get rid of said Mike Conley.
Yep.
But I don't really feel like they have anybody else on the team that's really
Well, they're gonna go
puts them
through a
in win
rebuild.
mode.
That's the whole thing. Like they're trying to go through a rebuild.
And that's rough.
You know, I mean, heck, last year they would have definitely sent Mike Conley somewhere else, but no one wanted him because I think he was coming back from an injury.
I
But
mean,
as far as I'm seeing today, it looks like the Jazz are really
the
looking to try to
Jazz
make some noise and
upgrade.
get him. Yeah.
Well, you think about it, they would want to do that because of that, the terrible shooting spree that Ricky Rubio had. You think about it, if Mike Conley's out there instead of Ricky Rubio, Jazz might have beat us 1 or 2 games.
Wow.
So you think about it like this in the West right now. Obviously, the Rockets are chasing the Warriors. Um, the Jazz
Uh,
are
James Harden is chasing the ghost of Curry.
right. The Jazz and the Thunder are chasing the Jazz, the Thunder, and the Clippers are chasing the Rockets. And then
Yes.
there's everybody else, the teams that are up and coming. I think if this is a sweep with the the Trailblazers,
Mm-hmm.
then the Trailblazers will be added to that list, chasing the Warriors as well. But I mean, everybody else is kind of just chasing to stay in the playoffs. And then, of course, the Nuggets, who, you know, they didn't really get a chance to really shine past the Spurs, but that's neither here
Which,
nor there.
which once again, I mean, what second year of them being in the playoffs? I'm not too
Right.
worried about them. Like they'll be there. Like
As long as they can keep the band
what they're
together.
going through is exactly what the Warriors went through.
True. That's true.
I'm
That's a good
not
point.
that scared. I'm not gonna sit there and doubt the Nuggets whatsoever.
Hopefully, they can pull in another player that can get them over the hump. I mean, that's ultimately it.
It's possible.
Uh, I mean, and then we would move on from there to the New York Knicks, who sit in a prime position to get your guy RJ Barrett, bearing a recommitment to Duke from Zion, in which I assume they probably would trade out and get somebody else. But all signs, according to all speculation, suggest that KD and Kyrie are coming to New York one way
Once
or the
again,
other.
I don't care about that until the off season starts. That's just the way that I
Hey,
am.
I'm just telling you how
I
it
know.
is.
I know.
So, I
Because,
mean,
like, everyone's
ultimately,
sitting there celebrating about it, and, like, they have pictures of them two with Zion, and, of course, the picture that I put out there on social media earlier, well,
strike one.
yesterday was strike one, like, do I hear two? Like, I don't care right now about whether or not these two players are trying to come to New York City. Right now, my focus is still on, okay, so what can we do with the number three pick? And how the
I
rest of
mean,
these
there's
players are going to pan out.
several things you could do. You can draft RJ Barrett if he's available. You
Yep.
can trade it. You can trade it for Anthony Davis,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I don't know who else they would package along with that because I feel like nobody's under contract right now. I feel like, um,
That no,
but
that's definitely the Lakers.
well, no, the Lakers have a lot of people under contract that they can trade. I'm trying to figure out who the Knicks would trade with this third overall pick. I
I
mean,
don't know. I think the Pelicans might actually give them a discount and would just
double check.
accept the yeah. They might just accept the third pick and maybe a second rounder.
Mm, I doubt it. I think
That's
the
that's what
Knicks will
I
probably
was
give up.
that's what I was hearing. Once again, speculation.
Yeah, I
I
think
know
only
it
reason I
doesn't
guess
I
they
know it doesn't equal out because Anthony Davis is a max contract player, but
right.
I mean they're
I
trying
could
to
see
get.
the
He
Knicks.
already said even though like they won the Zion sweepstakes, like he already said I don't care about that. I still want to leave.
Right. Because Zion's not going to make that big of a difference.
No, not at all.
Honestly, I don't think so either. I like Zion. Don't get me wrong. Defensively, great player. We have to see how it translates in the NBA. But I don't think offensively he's going to help out that much. It's going to be fun to watch him play. He's going to make a lot of dunks. It's going to be like a lot of highlights. And I think that's the only reason people wanted to see him in New York is so that they can watch him dunk in New York. But
Yes.
ultimately, if the Knicks did trade their number three pick, which most likely would be RJ, which would team RJ and Zion in New Orleans, which would be pretty awesome. I can't lie. Um, I would hate to root for them, but I would have to on nights that they're not playing the Rockets, of course.
Yep.
Um, but the Knicks potentially would have a pretty nice nucleus of players with Anthony Davis, and then potentially KD and whoever else, whether it be Kemba, whoever they pair up the third person with.
Yeah, we're gonna be heading into next season with only $34 million um, allocated
Well, that's
towards the current roster.
right. So it's like a gazillion moves that can be made. I think the GM wanted three max spots,
Which
and I
they can
think that's what he
do,
got.
or if they only manage to get one, they can always wait until the following season and just get
Right.
Anthony Davis. All I know is they better not pull a stupid Mellow type trade again.
Where they trade all the young players.
Yes.
Which that brings up another good point because they do have Kevin Knox. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pelicans asked for Kevin Knox and maybe maybe I think Stephen A. or someone else mentioned Mitchell Robinson.
Which is possible. It's completely possible, in fact.
See, if I was the Knicks, I would want to hold on to Mitchell Robinson to pair him with
I
Anthony
would
Davis.
love to keep Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah,
And I
he's
still like Kevin Knox, but once again, the problem is we still continually, you know, get all of these really good prospect players who can ball, and then we get rid
hmm
of them, and then we suck
for
more,
right.
and then
It's hard
turn
playing
out
in New
that
York.
we end up not getting any max contract players. So now we're literally sitting at, maybe $70 million
With Kemba
people on the
Walker
roster.
and yeah, Kimba, and they'll settle for somebody like Kimba or I don't even know Tobias
We're losing
Harris.
a lot of people.
Well, I mean that was the whole point of the trade was to get these people who had 1 year deals so that the money would fall off. And that's the whole mindset and concept. But if it doesn't work out, I mean they're gonna sit there looking like fools,
Yeah, yeah.
similar to the next team, the Los Angeles Lakers, who've been fools for half the season. But they're
uh,
also a team that traded and signed a whole bunch of people for a 1 year
for one
deal,
year. Yep.
and they just so happen to have the number four pick. Now I don't know who they pick up at the number four pick. Honestly, I mean, obviously it depends on how everything else falls.
Yep.
Um, they could trade it. Obviously, they're gonna make one more um, attempt to get Anthony Davis, but all signs point that they don't want to trade them west. Obviously, I would expect Houston to put a Clint Capella and four first round picks up one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Clint Capella, possibly Eric Gordon, or maybe someone else, and try to get Anthony Davis over one more time. And I even heard Stephen A. mention Houston trying to trade for LeBron, which sounded ridiculous. But
I literally about to say that too.
yeah, I think he mentioned that as well. But I mean, ultimately, I think the Lakers are in a good spot, and really, Stephen A. and not just Stephen A. but the other team of broadcasters, I forget that name. They also come on. Dang it, what's that guy's name? The show with Chris Carter and
Oh,
um,
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
yeah, Brian Kettle. Is it? No, it wasn't
No,
Kettleman.
that's ESPN. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
And
they were
yeah, I know who
they
you're
were
talking
talking
about.
about they were talking about how LeBron needed to be 50-50 partner with the Lakers, and all decisions should be going in conjunction with LeBron, and if not, then they should just trade him because it's not going to work. And the thing is, we have even said this as well, that
It's Nick White. Nick Wright
Nick
is
White,
the person.
that's exactly what Nick Wright,
Yeah,
that's exactly what it
who's a
was.
huge LeBron enthusiast and sympathizer.
So he said earlier that the Lakers needed to commit to making this LeBron's team, or get rid of him, trade him, in which that would be the most craziest thing ever for a team to trade LeBron. But
It's not happening. That's not
They have to.
happening.
The thing about it is that the Lakers have a lot of talent. I just don't think they're put together well. Like they they just put people together weirdly. I don't even know who put this team together. I don't know what Magic was thinking if he did this, but there's nobody on that team that would make you believe that they were going to playoffs and or win a championship. Like nobody. I mean, not even Rondo. I like Rondo,
Yeah.
but no. Tyson Chandler, come on.
You don't have to try to explain it to me. I get it.
Come on.
I
So
get it.
that part was kind of weird. Um, but with the fourth pick, hopefully, if they do keep it, I mean, what can we say? Um, After that, you got the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think the Cavs, I mean, if they can pick up any talented player at this point, it'll be to their benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, they need someone to complement Colin Sexton.
yeah. So, I mean, I think if Cam Reddish was here, or if somehow RJ makes it to five, which I highly doubt, I think he would be perfect here. Um, yeah.
Well, they currently have, based off mock drafts that I've been looking at, they have
Hmm.
Cam Reddish going to the next team.
The Suns. I keep seeing them going to the Bulls at seven, but
Like,
I can't see it
how
going.
crazy is like the four teams who, the other three teams other than the Knicks who had the highest chances of landing the number one top pick. Those other three teams went 5, 6, and 7 respectively.
That's crazy.
Like for me, I'm like
Yes.
that's a little too.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure. So, in the mock draft I'm showing, it looks like the Cavs are taking shooting guard Jarrett Culver out of Texas Tech, which
I,
he was pretty solid
he was very solid for Texas Tech. I had him. I actually have him going to the Lakers in this mock draft I'm looking at.
at number four. See, in this
Yep.
one, it has DeAndre Hunter from Virginia going at number four, which is a good pick.
Yeah, I think both of them would be a good pick. Like, I don't know why, and this I guess is another sidebar conversation for it. Like, I don't know why people were acting like, as soon as the third pick is over, then the rest of
The
the
draft
draft
is
is
over.
trash. Like,
Oh
that's
no,
how they've been saying.
no, this is
That's how they've been presenting this draft. Like, it's so top
uh,
heavy in the first three, and then after that, it really doesn't matter.
no, this draft is pretty loaded. I mean, to the point where Tyler Hero is in this mock draft is going 15 to the Pistons, and
Yep.
I mean Tyler Hero with going to the Pistons, to pair it with my former Dookie would be,
Amazing, and you'd be very happy with that.
oh, I would be happy. I mean, I would again, I would have to root for them when they're not playing the Rockets, of course,
Of course.
which wouldn't be too often, but that would be awesome. And they need more shooters anyway. They need a lot of things, including making some trades.
Hmm.
They might make a trade or two.
But a team
Um,
who can definitely make some noise is the Hawks, who have two top 10 picks now.
I know that they were disappointed.
Well, they were disappointed, and the Celtics were absolutely disappointed.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that's what I'm saying. So in the beginning, when I said, there has to be some celebrating that they didn't trade, as far as the Pelicans didn't trade to the Celtics and take those first round picks because they wouldn't have amounted to anything.
I agree with you.
So, or I guess it would have been a 14th overall pick that they probably would have received, a 14th and a 20th,
Yep.
which for Anthony Davis, that wouldn't have been worth it.
I don't know. All I know is Danny Ainge was pretty salty. He had to be pretty salty about that.
Yeah. I mean, and then just rounding out the top 10, I mean, you mentioned the Suns, the Bulls, and then it was just the Wizards at number nine, um, which I don't know what the Wizards would even do. I don't know what that team where that team is, what they're doing. They might be another team that might need to make a trade or two more
Yeah.
because they're I don't know what direction they're going in. It's very strange.
Well, I know they was trying to trade John Wall for a little
He,
bit last year,
I think he got hurt.
and then he got hurt.
I don't
So
even
I
know if
don't know
that's a
what is it that they're trying to do.
yeah. I don't even know if that's a good idea or not.
I was like, why would you sit there and give Kemba Walker more ammo?
I don't know.
like, like for real though, like why would you give him more ammo?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And I don't know what Kimba's going to do. And I think Kimba's the only person that people aren't talking about in free agency.
And like again, I'll be happy if I get Kemba.
And I think people kind of also forget that, ultimately, which we don't expect him to leave, but I mean, nobody talks about Kawhi possibly leaving the Raptors. Nobody. I don't know if Kawhi would do good in the New York media because
No,
of his
I think he'll go
personality.
to the Clippers.
Yeah, I can see him going to the Clippers or maybe even to the Nuggets,
No,
which would be
definitely Clippers.
dangerous.
He wants to go to he either wants to go back to LA where he's from,
Hmm.
or he's gonna end up going. He's either do one of three things. He's gonna go either to the Lakers. He might go to the Knicks, depending on who we sign first, or he might just stay in Toronto, depending on how far they get.
I would love for him to stay in Toronto, do something that Chris Bosh was never able to do.
Chris Bosh, Vince Carter, T
Yeah,
Mac, DeMar
just couldn't do it.
DeRozan.
And I hate the fact that I saw trades involving Siakam for Anthony Davis as well. I
That's not
hated
happening.
that.
That's not happening.
Yeah, I hated that big time. But that's our lottery portion. I mean, I think we should move on to these playoffs where the unfortunate end of the Run It Back series ends in six as the Rockets fall to the Warriors 99 to 104 last Friday. Very, very somber, very, very whack. But, as I mentioned, it's time to move on to football.
Wow.
And then, of course, the Trailblazers went on to beat the Nuggets in Game 7 to move on to play the aforementioned
Wait.
Warriors.
I wanted to get your insight about your Rocket
I
series.
just gave you insight. I gave you a
I
whole bunch
wanted
of
to
insight.
hear, about what you thought of, where the Rockets went wrong. I'm not gonna sit there and try to bait you by saying who deserves blame, but like, where do you feel like they went wrong, and where do you think that they could improve on next year? And do you feel like this is the last rodeo of this current squad?
So apparently James Harden knows what they need to do. I don't know what they need to do. Um, I can tell you one thing. Even in the game in 2K, I attempted to trade Chris Paul, and it's just not possible. I think he just makes too much money. Ultimately, I think it's going to involve a trade that I did wind up making, which was trading potentially Eric Gordon. Although he's a solid player, I don't think the team plans on bringing him back. And who I traded him for was someone probably not the same person, but when you're looking at the team, we need that solid three, that small forward. So when I made the trade, I believe at first I was looking at Otto Porter, but I think I wound up trading for another small forward who was a 3 and D player. I can't think of his name right now, but I think let me check something really quickly. Let me just check really quickly. Players. I don't even think he's on this team anymore, actually. He used to play on Philadelphia. He actually might be on Milwaukee. Let me check. Hmm. No, I don't see him here. He's definitely there on the game, so I don't know where he is now. But basically, they need a small forward that can play three and D, similar to what Trevor Ariza gave him. But I hated the fact that they kept mentioning us getting Trevor Ariza back, and it's like we don't have to get Trevor Ariza back. We need to find a player who gives us that, maybe even two players that gives us that for the price of that 13 million that Eric Gordon is worth. So I think ultimately that's what they'll probably look to do. I know some people were disappointed in Clint Capella this year in the playoffs. He's been out rebounded. His flaws came out this particular year, and I think this might be the time where they might be looking to move him. And actually, the player that I was just thinking of was Robert Covington.
Yes.
That is who I traded for in 2K. Good 3 and D player. Wasn't too expensive, and I was able to get him for fairly a pretty good deal. Um, but ultimately, I mean, I've seen a lot of different, theories. Some people were saying, how long are the Rockets going to roll with Mike D'Antoni, which I didn't necessarily like because I think Mike's doing a good job. Um, how long do the Rockets stick with Chris Paul? Which again, trading Chris Paul is going to be one of the hardest things Daryl Morey is probably ever going to do in his whole career. Matching salaries, I couldn't even see it happening. But if we're somehow able to make a blockbuster trade and figure it all out, I would be interested to hear it and see it. But I don't see it happening. I think we're going to be running with this team at least for one more year, give or take one or two players that are going to be on the roster. Only person I can see us getting rid of is Eric Gordon, and he just so happens to be one of our bright spots. But I think we might try to trade him to acquire two players in the deal. It would be great if it was with the Knicks.
I knew he was gonna say that. I knew he was gonna say that.
Send Eric Gordon to the Knicks, where, we would love to have some of that young talent that the Knicks have.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think if we could pick up somebody, I think he's a free agent, but if we could pick up somebody like Mario Hazonia, that would be dope.
Which I really enjoyed watching him play. He's very aggressive.
Yeah,
Him and
I think that's
Alonzo Trier.
what I think of
I
both free agents.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. Like, and I hope we re-signed him. I think it'd be a really bad decision for us not to re-sign him. But once again, gotta wait and see. I'm waiting to see after who raises the Larry O'Brien Trophy first.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, that's how I feel about the Rockets. I mean, we didn't run out of gas like we normally do. I'm pretty sure James Harden, after going to party with whatever rap star, he went back to the gym and started shooting.
That's fair. That's fair.
But on to the playoffs that continue without the Rockets. The Warriors were able to spank the Trailblazers, literally put them on their knee and spank them.
They literally told the Trailblazers to bend the knee.
That's right. Straight chorus. That's right.
Yep. Yep.
That's pretty much what it was. That's exactly what it was. It was pretty ridiculous, actually. Now, mind you, I looked for 1 second and it was like 34-32. I turned for about 2 minutes, and I feel like the Warriors went on like a 15-2 run, and then Steph Curry hit a three at the end of the half, and it was just over.
It was pretty much over. They didn't really stand a chance. Steph Curry shot 60% from three.
And that's not gonna do it.
That's not going to do it at all. He
Trailblazers.
had so
Yeah.
many open threes. Like, we already said, don't leave Steph Curry open for three.
Yeah. And Clay was hot too. I mean,
Clay was 3 for 9 for three.
he hit some big shots though.
Draymond hit a three.
Draymond's a bum. But I would take him in a heartbeat. He's a bum. No, I'm just kidding. He's not a bum, but he is a bum. He's poking players in the eye. He's a bum. The eye poke of doom. But I mean, the Trailblazers, as I mentioned for the last series, and I think I mentioned this last week, I still feel they're one player away. And if they can secure one of these big players like a Jimmy Butler, which I don't think they have the money for all this, but if they can secure a big player to help Dame and CJ when Dame and CJ are struggling, because it always seems like one of them are struggling, and they don't. But see, the thing about them is that they don't play well without being in a pressure situation.
Yes.
If the pressure's on, they rise to the occasion, which I love. But they need to be more aggressive, and they need to always feel like the pressure is on when they're playing against the Warriors. But I like what Dame said.
Just completely exhausted.
But I like what Dame said when he said we split the season series with this team 2-2.
Yep.
Which means we've been able to beat them, and we know the regular season doesn't count. But to get blown out without having Kevin Durant on the floor is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Unacceptable. And then, of course, tonight, not on Debate Amongst Friends, but tonight, and in about 29 minutes, we'll have game one of the East as the Raptors and the Bucks square off, which this is going to be a wonderful series.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch
it. And I might literally have to sit down and really watch this series because it's going to be awesome. This could be a series, and I don't know if Milwaukee has the money. I don't know if the Raptors have the money, but this could be a series that Kawhi and the Greek Freak become best friends.
Yes.
And Kawhi says, you know what?
I agree with that.
You know what, Milwaukee? If you beat us, I'm coming over there, Greek Freak, and I'm going to play with you because I like you.
I don't think that's going to happen. I was thinking more in line of, okay, they have such a great, intense series that Kawhi doesn't want to leave to go west. Like, he wants to still play Giannis in the East.
I think Kawhi enjoyed playing against the 76ers also.
I think Kawhi enjoyed shutting people up because there was so many of his laughing memes out there.
Which he doesn't actually, he said he doesn't have social media, which I also commend him for, because not having social media these days, I'm talking about no social media, it's kind of tough. Most of us do something, whether it's a podcast or something on social media, talk to old friends, but Kawhi's like, no, I just pick up the phone and call them, I guess, and that's it.
I can respect that. Wow. Okay, I think we're ready for final thoughts now.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
I feel like people are just completely disrespecting him.
No.
Like now people are covering him, talking about, he could be a top 3 player in the league, the best player in the NBA or even on the planet. Like, where was this? Where was this?
I think we forgot.
When I made that declaration.
I think we forgot because of the hiatus, and I even made the statement. I even made the statement in the beginning of the year that I hoped that he was still able to really dominate on the basketball court, and then he came out and he dominated on the basketball court.
I said, just wait.
The guy is playing. I mean, he's actually playing the closest to Michael Jordan than anybody I've seen. I know Kobe stole all his moves.
That's what started this whole thing, because I want to say it was actually Kendrick Perkins who said it first. That started this whole MJ debate, and of course the LeBron lovers came through, and then the Kobe lovers came through, and he became such a big thing. He said Kawhi is playing on the pace of Michael Jordan.
He really is. And I like the fact that it's in Toronto.
Averaging 40 points a game in the playoffs, carrying his team. He is telling them, get on my back, I'm going to guide you to the promised land. A former Finals MVP.
You don't want to shoot? Oh, okay.
Who had
I'll
his coming
shoot.
out party during that very same finals, my favorite finals of all time.
Yeah, he did. Young. And I like the fact that he keeps his cornrows.
Yeah,
I think that's also something. And they're not like, he doesn't do like Iverson Styles or anything like
no,
that.
it's just
He
straight
honestly,
cornrows.
I feel like he's just like, you know what? Do my hair. You want me to put a zigzag? Nope, nope.
No,
I don't
just
want a
do my hair.
zigzag.
I just want to. He's
I
like
just want it to be neat.
I can relate
Like
with what Kawhi is saying. Like the way that
it's
he
like
lives.
it's like
Like
it's like coming to America. How do you want your hair? Just nice and neat.
yeah, wow, wow.
Just make it nice and neat. I feel like that's what Kawhi says to the person braiding his hair.
Oh
Just make it nice and neat.
no, no, no.
I hope Kawhi hears
I
that.
think
That would be
you need to
great.
stop now.
I
I feel
hope
like
Kawhi hears
you're completely
that,
disrespecting him. I think we're at
No.
end game.
Oh, come on.
No,
Come
I'm
on.
not gonna let you sit there and do that to my guy, man. No, no,
Okay. It's nice and
no.
neat.
I can't
So you want to
believe.
go to Endgame?
Yeah, let's just get to Endgame. I can't believe you did that.
I mean, last week it was something else. I guess this week it's like, come on, what are you doing?
How very Stephen A. Smith of you, sir.
Wow. All I said was nice and neat.
Like real quickly though, like big shout out to Stephen A. Smith for winning the Daytime Emmy Awards
Wow.
for being the most overacting actor in all of sports.
Mhm.
He is on
It was
national TV, blubbering, talking about he is praying, and doing all this stuff, acting like a complete fool, a gosh darn fool on national television because of a lottery. A lottery?
Mm.
According to Wikipedia,
So much so that even Cortana is piping in. The lottery. We talking about the lottery. Like we're not talking
So,
about the draft. We're not talking about playoffs. We're talking about lottery.
mm.
Thank you, Stephen A. Smith, for bringing our people back 100 years and doing exactly what people like the person we used to talk about off the podcast for 2K do
Hmm.
just for the clicks. In fact, ESPN on their YouTube channel came up with a compilation of Stephen A. Smith acting like a gosh darn, excuse my language, jackass
Mm.
throughout the whole day for the past 2 days.
Wow.
A compilation of him acting this way.
Mm,
Stephen
mm,
A.,
mm.
as a member of the Knicks fandom, like, we don't need you
Mm.
because you
We
make
don't
us look
believe.
like kids.
I think,
And yes,
and
y'all
I'm
can
glad you
clip
mentioned that.
that. I don't even care. Like, no, you don't. No,
I
you
fe-
don't act like
I-
that.
but you know something? I felt like Stephen A. was really disappointed, and despite his antics, it kind of
He wasn't
riled up
disappointed.
some
He
of the
knew what
players.
was gonna happen.
Well, no, he said he expected the Knicks to actually get like a fifth or sixth pick. He said he didn't think it was going to be three, so I think he was happy with the three, but
He
he
didn't
was
act like he was
thinking that
happy
it was
with the
going to be
three.
where. At least that's what he said on the show. I had a chance to watch or listen to, I guess, earlier today.
He didn't act like
Um,
he was happy with the three.
a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people wanted Zion, but
I
honestly, I don't think Zion, as good as he is, I don't think he's
I
going to
don't.
be a guy.
I'm gonna say this again. I don't think Zion is as good as people are portraying him to be.
Here's a guy that,
Exactly. Like here's a guy who, throughout high school, in fact, we was talking about the
where
article,
the kid,
yeah,
hmm
from the other day,
that's right,
when he developed into the monster,
right,
amongst basketball players,
right.
like
In which,
became a YouTube phenomenon for all his highlights.
we'll see the thing about
Went
Zion
to a
though.
prized blue-blooded Division I college in the
Wow,
Docs Dukies.
he did.
Showed out there, didn't show out in March Madness.
I mean, he did, but I understand what you're saying. He had some good games. I just think that we just didn't come and bring it together. How dare you say that about
I
Zion?
don't 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 do
I can
this.
see if I can see if you mentioned like RJ, not RJ, but Cam or
Oh, I mean, we're
somebody
in
else.
complete agreement about Cam. Like, once
And I
again,
like Cam.
we're
Don't get me
talking
wrong.
about the bar being set. So this is the normal bar. We are the
Hmm.
bar. You know,
Uh,
this is the bar that would be set if you have three of the national recruits. This is the bar that was set with one of those three national recruits that went to Duke was Zion freaking Williamson.
right. You're right.
So the fact that they didn't completely ransack March Madness, that's why I said it was a disappointment because the people put that high of expectation. It's beyond the arms can reach. It should really be here. This is normal for, a Duke team. It's not here where everyone else is. Like, it's pretty much higher. Like, can you agree with that? Like, that's usually how Duke's expectation level is. It went
I agree.
beyond that because of Zion. I'm not
I
saying it's
agree.
it's the right thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is what happens when people put too much gas in the tank.
And I think the reason why Zion is getting so much pressure, and I'm just looking at the tournament scores, that he had. I mean, we're talking about 23 points, 24 points, 25 points, 32 points. So I mean, he really did his thing. That's why I said
Once
you
again,
can't blame it on on Zion.
once again,
Um,
I'm only blaming him because of how much hype people are putting it for. Same thing,
no,
like
you
the same reason
can't.
why you always adamantly defend James Harden. Well, James Harden scored 35. Well, he should have gotten more. Like, what more did you want
See,
him
that's what I'm saying,
to do?
and I don't like that, and that's why I'm defending Zion because
No, I'm
listen,
I'm I'm being
uh,
satirical
you're
about it.
playing devils. Don't do
Yes.
that. Don't do that.
He's not happy
Don't
with that, ladies and
because
gentlemen. He ain't happy with that.
it's kind of stupid because it's like
Thank
you can
you.
only control what you can
Thank you.
control. But I've been saying
And
this. But I've been saying
that's
this.
been what we've been trying to say for the past 2 years here.
I, I
That no
don't.
one wants
That's
to
what I'm
listen
saying.
to.
Like I've never put just like they always say God will never put more than you can handle. I never put anything on more than anybody than what they can control. Because it's like you
Absolutely.
think about it, and I think I mentioned this to you last week or earlier this week, that the problem that I have when people talk about like James Harden is that it's always another, oh, he should stop doing this.
Exactly.
So it's like, oh,
No
he
one's
dribbles too much.
no one's satisfied for what he can do.
Yeah, so it's
They're
like
always
I got
trying
to
to look for
look at
something
people.
more.
I got to look at people say, oh, they should trade James Harden. I'm like, well, why would they trade him when he's the only person actually delivering? Oh, he
Yep.
shoots too much. Then
Yep.
it's like in the fourth quarter, oh, he should have shot. Oh, he dribbles too much.
Yep.
Oh, and then in the fourth quarter when he's passing, oh, he should have held on to the ball a little longer. It's like, oh, he gets fouled all the time. As PJ Tucker said, they foul him all the time. And I believe that.
You've
But
been saying that for
ultimately,
the past 3 years.
they've been hacking him. And there are so many freaking fouls that they don't call. So he really should probably have about 10 more shots.
Oh, let's
But they
not
don't
talk
be
about
calling
let's
it.
not talk about the referees. You already know how I feel about that.
But I mean, it's time to go to end game. I mean, I don't want to talk about Zion unless he goes back. If Zion goes back to Duke or forces his way, which I think somebody called it a Marino,
Hmm.
or I guess
Or an Eli.
an Eli, I guess, because I guess the whole idea was that he hasn't signed with an agent yet,
Hmm.
and then he hasn't signed any deals or anything, so technically he could go back to Duke.
Yep.
That would be insane, first and foremost. But I wouldn't blame him. New Orleans isn't a sexy place
Well, New
um,
Orleans is a sexy
to play
place.
basketball.
Okay, then I can agree
Yeah,
there. I
that's
was
all.
like, wait,
To play
what?
basketball. I'm sorry, to play basketball. I love New Orleans. That's my
I
Saints. I
haven't
don't
been
like.
to New Orleans yet. That still is one of the destinations I need to get to.
We'll get you out there. Don't you worry. We'll get you out there. But ultimately, if he decides to stay at Duke, I wouldn't be mad.
No, and that's fair enough. Once again, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Absolutely.
You gotta do
All right,
what you gotta do.
let's get to these final thoughts before I go
Yes.
crazy.
He was about to get so mad too.
How ridiculous. So, my first final thought. Every week, clearly, if you've been listening to the show, you know. But if you're new to the show, you're gonna find out that we do final thoughts at the end of every show. Just some things that we wanted to highlight but didn't cover during the show. And one thing that I wanted to make sure I pointed out is that we got some preseason action. As you know, as I mentioned last week, the WNBA is coming back, and we want to do a better job of covering these ladies because I feel like they get left out, and I really want to push them to the forefront of media. So tonight we got the Phoenix Mercury taking on the Seattle Storm tonight at 10 p.m. So hopefully people tune into that, and if you're a fan of the Phoenix Mercury or Seattle Storm, I would expect you to be cheering your team on, or I'm going to slap you.
Probably shouldn't threat people online, but
No.
I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Or if
Um,
I'm going to quote, if I'm going to
but
quote,
I definitely said this season too. I also want to go to a WNBA game as well. So
absolutely,
that's gonna
and I
definitely
mean
be on my list.
not to overquote Coming to America, but I will thrash you. Moving on. So, in other news, NBA news, the University of Michigan loses their head coach as John Beeline leaves the school to become the Cleveland Cavaliers' new head coach.
That was an
Huge.
interesting move.
Yes, very interesting. 66 years old, going in a different direction. Becomes the third oldest coach in the league.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that one.
It's rough, right?
I don't know about that one, man.
Yeah, I know. I know. In other news, and I did mention this earlier to you, but shout out to the Memphis Tigers, the 2019 basketball team, getting a boost in recruiting. Not only did they sign the number one ranked player, James Wiseman, the center out of Tennessee. I mean, obviously he would stay home. That's good. But they also picked up former Duke commit Boogie Ellis, who we just talked about last week.
We did.
Um, and they also have an opportunity to sign the number fifth ranked player, RJ Hampton. But they have some really, really good, talented players, several within the top 100, I'll say. But they have some pretty solid players, and I'm hoping that Penny, gets the ball rolling. We got a chance to see Ewing yesterday. I don't really get a chance to see, Georgetown recruiting, but, hopefully he's doing wonderful. Obviously, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but that cough on TV, I'm surprised, wasn't turned into some type of meme or some type of,
No, there's already plenty of memes that's happening there, but it was mainly
yeah.
with Zion's face. And
Oh,
also, which team was it? Was it the Hawks?
that did what?
It was a lady who sat for one of the basketball teams.
It was the Mavericks. No,
No,
not
another team.
the black lady.
No, no, that was the Mavericks.
That was the Mavericks.
Yeah,
There was another lady.
I don't remember what team, but so I don't know if people realize this as well, and not to steal your thunder, of course, sir.
You steal
But
it.
um,
Thunder.
after her teams got selected, and I'm thinking it's the Hawks, but I might be wrong though.
It could have
But
been.
after her team got their lottery pick selection done, she was ready to. It was the actress. It was. I don't remember her name. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
We should probably have Chris get on that actually to find out.
Yeah.
But as soon as everything happened and finished, um, she tried to leave.
Did she now?
She tried to leave,
Interesting.
like
Let's see
right
if we
there
can
on
find out
stage,
who it
like
was.
try to leave.
Let's see, because I only remember Cynthia Marshall from the Mavericks. Let me see. I remember Elliot Nice Socks Perry. Oh, is it Jamie Gert?
Yes.
It was Atlanta. It was Atlanta. So she was out of there.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. That's terrible. That's why they did terrible.
No, it was afterwards. It was after
Yeah,
that.
but she knew that the people were gonna automatically assume that it was her fault. Just like people trying to say, "Oh, it's Patrick Ewing's fault." I heard that theory as well.
People were saying, "Oh, yeah, it's Patrick Ewing fault." Like, when was the last time he won anything? Like,
And you
that
had
was funny though. That one was funny though.
you had the socks, you had Griffin's freaking charm, his lucky charm, Kuzma's jacket. I mean, it was ridiculous. Horace Grant just being there apparently.
Okay, so the Horace Grant one was funny. So the Chicago Tribune put up a very interestingly, highly opinionated article, and one of the things that they were saying that led to the Bulls not getting a top 3 pick was Horace Grant not wearing his goggles.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah.
Oh God, not wearing the goggles. Yikes.
I was
Well,
like, wow, I can't believe they said this.
Wow. Well, my last final thought. Speaking of goggles, you don't need goggles to view these numbers, but Taco Fall went to the NBA Combine, and the guy stood 7'7" with shoes,
Mm-hmm.
289 pounds, 8'2" wingspan.
Yep.
And this is the most alarming part to me, and not alarming, but alarming at the same time. 6.8 body fat. That is insane.
Yeah.
I wonder why no one talks about him potentially being a top pick. 7'7" is ridiculous.
I have 5 reasons for you, and you're not gonna like the reasons.
He's not super slow.
You're not gonna like the reasons. Would you like to hear the reasons?
Don't you say Yao and Mearson and all those other guys? Give it to
Count
me.
them off for you. Zion, 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 Zion.
Wow, I can't believe you did a dial-out on us. Wow.
But if you think about it, you know I'm right. You know
Yeah.
I'm right.
No, you're right. But he didn't get dunked on.
I know he didn't get dunked on.
Wow.
But that's the whole reason why no one is thinking of him. No one is.
Wow.
Absolutely not. At all.
That's terrible. I mean, wow, I can't believe you said that.
Yeah. See? You know I'm right. You know I'm right.
But Zion's just one man.
You know I'm right.
He's just one man.
Once again, not blaming Zion. I'm blaming the media. Because they are putting no coverage on anyone else. Which is why people are saying that the talent depth takes a steep decline after number 3. That is why this is happening. And that is why people like Taco is not getting the coverage that he deserves. He got coverage during March Madness.
Yeah, because I remember at one point, Bobo was supposed to be a top 5 pick.
Was supposedly a top 5 pick. Now he's right middle of the pack.
Yeah. I can't even remember that other kid's name that we were talking about here he is, Carson Edwards.
Yep.
I mean, he's going late in the first round, and I thought he was a beast.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
See, even though I said it as a joke, you know I'm also correct about this.
I believe
It's the
Taco's
media's
falling that far.
It's the media's fault. They're not going to cover them. You want me to tell you when they're going to start covering them? The week of the draft. Maybe even 2 days before the draft.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he returned back to UCF for his senior season.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but those are the final thoughts, man. I mean, and also people, if you don't know, if you're new to the show, Please follow us on all social media platforms at Debate Amongst Friends or on Twitter at Debate Amongst Fre. I can be found at TL Double on Instagram, as well as this podcast professor over here at the Professor John A. Gotti. That's Gotti, Gotti.
Like Gotti. I actually have
Gotti.
two quick final thoughts.
Oh,
I'll
go
knock
for
those
it.
out real quickly.
Do it.
So, speculations has been going around after a recent interview with Yoshinori Ono, who is one of the heads of the Street Fighter universe. He did an interview on Event Hubs, which shout
Mm-hmm.
out to Event Hubs for getting the interview. But he was saying that Street Fighter Five, and I was talking about Street Fighter Five a few weeks ago. Street
Mm-hmm.
Fighter Five story has not concluded yet, and the reason he had to say that because the FGC, the fighting game community, has been getting on the Street Fighter game, the developers and the content creators, for the lack of new items within the game. So we're now currently at season 4, and we have yet to get new characters in this game.
Mm.
And we're a few months away from Evo,
Wow.
and nothing happened at all
Wow.
since
What's up with
Evo
that?
last year.
Dang. What's up with that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they're playing something big. People are saying they want to see E Honda to come back into the game, but I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, what else can they do? But
Mm.
what they've been bringing out is a lot of costumes and new stages, but that's not enough for them. That's not enough for them, and it's bad enough that the amount of people who registered to play Street Fighter V for Evolution, which is a mystery, for 2019 this year in August, is, I think it's number 3 still, but it's hovering to becoming in the number 4 as far as the top
Mm-hmm.
registration rankings. So hopefully we'll see. But with E3 coming up in a few weeks, people are speculating that Street Fighter V will probably premiere something there. I doubt
Mm-hmm.
it, but it's a possibility. Who
Mm.
knows? And the last one is actually, I've totally forgot about this competition that happened this past weekend. Texas Showdown happened out in
Mm-hmm.
Houston, Texas, where
Oh.
that Doc's team plays. It
Oh
wasn't, of
yeah.
course, in the arena that the Rockets play at, but it was in the
I
city.
gotcha.
And Denial JB won it all, defeating NuckleDoo in grand finals. So Denial
Mm-hmm.
earned 200 Capcom Pro Tour points, which definitely helped out in his overall rankings. As I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, NuckleDoo went second. K-Brad, who we was talking about before the show, who signed with Rise, tied for fifth. And last year, Evolution winner Problem X rounded out the top 8. And that's all I got.
That's all you got to say about that.
And that's all I gotta say about the war in Vietnam.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I'm so
But
sorry,
yeah,
folks. Why did I enable him?
I don't know why you did that.
Why did I
But I
do that?
but I think that was a pretty solid final thought. If you can introduce our final song here,
I was like, wait,
our
this is the final song?
no, no, not the final song. Our final minutes of the show where we like to play an
our
artist,
yes, our outro
an
track for
outro.
tonight is from the artist named Deathflow. You've heard us play one of his tracks before in a consolidation with Awan, who we really enjoy a lot of his music. And
Absolutely.
it's from his EP album called My Brother's Keeper, actually a single album called My Brother's Keeper, and the song title was of the same name. We put all the links in the description on the YouTube video. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you show love support to all of the artists that we play on the show. The doc definitely make sure to the doc actually creates a YouTube playlist with all of the
Mm-hmm.
outro songs. So if there's one in particular that you like, you can find it there. and we have it there for you, ladies and gentlemen. But make sure you support them. And also, big shout outs to Croup Dog for providing us with the most electrifying and death-defining intro track in all podcast history. And you can catch us every single Wednesday evening, around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time each time. And you already heard all the social media from that podcast, Beast and Ninja, Doc Lesnar. Make sure you catch Gaming Amongst Friends. We have finally finished the main story for the Division 2, and we're finally starting to work on the end game. At last, you're on your own.
Wow, we did it.
It's about dang time, but more challenges for us. We're gonna definitely try to do that, so make sure you catch us. Usually it's gonna be during the weekend, so you can catch us on YouTube, you can catch us on Twitch, probably Periscope too, as we continue to neutralize, this time, the Black Tusk out there. So it's gonna be quite fun. Make sure you join us. You know, sit back, kick back, you know, have yourself a nice beverage. We're not condoning, you know, drinking and driving, ladies and gentlemen, so if you keep it non-alcoholic, we would not be offended by that. And, you know, just enjoy some video gaming. And also, every single Thursday, I also do a retro day, where I play a retro game, and I'm going to continue on my quest in the world to Super Mario World, as I venture towards the end of the Vanilla Dome and start heading towards the Butter Bridge.
We're the best around. Nothing gonna ever keep us down.
We're gonna start talking about Cobra Kai, and like we're at the end of the episode.
I haven't started season 2 yet, so don't you spoil it.
I've already watched it also.
Wow.
The references are amazing, actually.
I'm gonna check it out.
But ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. I am the Professor John Gotti.
And this is Dr. Wednesday Night himself, the podcast beast.
And we'll catch you next time. And like we always say, goodbye, mwah, and to all, a good night.
Like proud pops watching from the bleachers, wishing that I was both your coach and your teacher. So much more than just a couple dope sneakers. If only you were old enough to know my features. But I gotta face the fact your face different, and our DNA don't match, our race different. Relationships end in flames in some cases. Just praying it's another real one that I'm replaced with. I'd hate seeing your mother with a sucker, cause you need to know the difference in me and the motherfuckers. And even though it ain't my role, there's some things I can't control, it's gonna happen. I still got your back, my fabric old fashioned, cut from a cloth where the men raise boys, even when the grown men still playing with his toys. It's not a game at all, the world's cold. America been killing the kids, the world knows. And ain't none of us gonna make it on our own, but before the world change, gotta make it in our home. I'm getting grown, not alone. If I am my brother's keeper, I be the seeds too. Each one teach one, let them teach too. We reap what was sown when the seeds grew, and you might not know, but you need to. If I am my brother's keeper, I be the seeds too. Each one teach one, let them teach too. We reap what was sown when the seeds grew. Never let a lost nigga mislead you. Like an OG poised with composure, I'm here to separate the noise from the culture. There's no way the young boys can destroy it. They can't avoid it, they getting exploited. And I'm not copping pleas for the fuckery. I won't knock your hustle, but you not gon' hustle me. I stuck through the struggles, slept on the pavement, rehabilitated bubs kept in the basement. Desperate for mentors, pressed for a payment. Head in the clouds every day of vacation. Got 2 eyes to see with no vision. One bad decision away from a prison, and all you really want is to make it to Thanksgiving. This shit here for real life. So imagine what the shorty going through it feels like. Get the fuck out of the way or uplift them. This for the young homies to know that I fucks with them. And all our OGs at home that stuck with them, trying to show them how to win if they only just listen. More brothers like us is what's missing. If I am my brother's keeper, I be the seeds too. Each one teach one, let them teach too. We reap what was sown when the seeds grew, and you might not know, but you need to. If I am my brother's keeper, I be the seeds too. Each one teach one, let them teach too. We reap what was sown when the seeds grew. Never let a lost nigga mislead you.